Did you know that the vast majority of core exercises that people do don't work because you have to do core exercises in a specific order? Now, why is that? It's because that the body has a chain of command, and if we don't get some key muscles firing first, then everything else you're going to be doing after that won't work. Hi, my name's Kamina Sue, and in this video I'm going to share with you the 5 best core exercises that you didn't expect. The name of the game is getting your transverse abdominis or your TVA muscle working. So the TVA muscle is the long, thin muscle that wraps around our torso and lies underneath the visible muscles in our midriff. So let's go ahead and get started with getting that TVA firing. So the first exercise that I'd like to do is called the set point. So basically you're going to come lying on your back. You're going to take a block, placing the block in between your knees, and then coming in a comfortable position, you're going to take an inhalation, bringing the arms over the head, exhaling, bringing the legs off the floor. See how I'm engaging my feet? I'm gently squeezing that block. Inhaling here, exhaling, bringing the arms forward, bringing the legs forward and lowering those legs down right before you feel your upper back about to lift off the ground. Now, when your lower back is about to lift off the ground, that means your TVA muscle is switching off, okay? So that's happening to you. Go ahead and bring your knees, rather your legs up a little bit higher like this, and you should feel it engaging again. So as your TVA gets stronger, you can actually start to bring your legs lower and lower down towards the ground. But don't rush this, okay? So you just, really it's a process of discovery here with the set points. You're going to be spreading those toes, pressing out through the hands. I like to have my hands palms facing up and breathing here for about 30 seconds. So if you want to make this exercise a little bit easier, you can just go ahead and bring your head down, maybe keep the legs a little bit more bent, and then as you get stronger you can start to straighten them and then lower them down like that. If you would like to make this exercise a little bit more challenging, you can go ahead and add some light ankle weights like these and put them on. Coming back through again, inhaling here, exhaling, bring those arms forward, bring the legs forward, lowering those legs down, and whew, with those ankle weights you'll definitely notice your TVA working. So the next exercise we're going to be doing to get that TVA firing, and this time getting it really strong, is something which is called the L-sit. But before we do the L-sit, I'm going to go ahead and show you a quick wrist warm-up exercise that you can do, because if you're not used to pressing on your hands, these can actually be pretty challenging. So the wrist warm-up that I like to do is I like to stretch the forearms. So the forearms basically support our wrists, and often they're pretty tight and pretty weak. So here you want to go ahead and just place your hands kind of on either side of your knees, and then bring your hips back down towards your heels. It doesn't matter if you can't sit back down towards your heels, just wherever you happen to be is totally fine. And you want to try and feel a nice stretch there in the inside of your wrist and your forearms. And notice what I'm doing here as well. I'm also moving my hips from side to side. This actually just feels really nice. You can experiment with how you can get the most out of this exercise here by doing those little micro movements. Long, slow, deep breathing. And then once you feel satisfied, you can go ahead and come up, and then you can bring your hands in front of you. And I like to bring my hands so the fingers are pointing out and the thumbs are kind of turned in towards each other. And so here, you want to make sure that you're also really what I call cameraing the fingers. So you want to make sure that your hand is really spread, and it's almost like you're Spider-Man kind of coming up a building. You want to have the same kind of feeling with your fingers, like you're really engaging through the entire fingers. And then I also like to press the finger pads into the ground as well. That actually helps to engage and enliven the hands. So once you're here, go ahead and bring your hips up, and then just do a nice big circle here with the hands. Nice full range of motion. A few circles in one direction, a few circles in another direction, and just making sure you're keeping your breathing long, slow, and deep. Good. Now we're going to go ahead and come out of here, and so hopefully your wrists and forearms are feeling nice and warmed up, because we're now going to be moving into the L-sit itself. So I like to use L-sits on blocks. You've probably seen a lot of content, a lot of people demonstrating L-sits where they are using parallel bars. But I find that if you are wanting to translate the pressing power that you're going to be building through a flat palm, then actually using blocks it translates better. So, especially if you're a yoga practitioner and do a lot of vinyasa and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so here we are with our blocks. Now, you want to make sure that the blocks are right close to your hips, and that as you place your hands on the blocks, that the middle finger is pointing straight ahead. You do not want to have the hands turning out, which you see a lot of this going on. That's really going to hurt the inside of your wrist. So you want to make sure the middle finger is pointing straight ahead and that you're engaging through the feet. Taking an inhalation, rolling the shoulders away from the ears. Exhaling, I like to do a little shush exhalation as I press up. Shh. And then pulling the hips back. So I'm pulling the hips back, and I'm also really engaging through the feet. And so by doing this action with pulling the hips back, I'm also building what's called hip compression strength, which is really an important quality to build. So you're going to be here for about 30 seconds, long, slow, deep breathing. This next exercise I'm going to show you is called the dead bug, and it's awesome for developing what's called lumbar pelvic control, of which the TVA plays a really big part in that. So often when we don't have a lot of stability in our lower back, in the lumbar pelvic area, that can be a cause of aggravating back pain, and it also means that you cannot do what I call full body tension, where we're actually recruiting all the musculature in our body to be able to do things like do a push-up or a pull-up and have the body in one line. Okay, so it's the ability to be able to generate tension in the body to be able to produce force. And so if you always have like a little bit of a break in your lower back, you won't be able to do that very effectively, and you'll just hurt your back. So this exercise here is the dead bug with an isometric press. So I'm going to go ahead and come to my back, and I've got a piece of heavy furniture behind me. So you want to have something behind you, like it could be a wall, it could be like a door, shelf like I have here, or if you're practicing at a gym, you can even use a piece of gym equipment. Your hands might be a little bit closer together than shoulder distance apart, which doesn't really matter as long as you're able to press away and that object is pretty stable. So we're going to take an inhalation here, and I'm going to have my arms really strong and straight, and I'm getting in touch with my scapula, my shoulder blades here, and I'm also pressing my lower back into the ground. So inhale, I bring my feet up. Notice how I'm pointing and spreading my toes. I'm exhaling. As I'm pressing away with my hands, I'm gently lowering one heel down towards the earth, and then I'm tapping lightly and then bringing that foot back up. Good. And the second one, we're going to take an inhalation here. Exhaling, I'm bringing my navel into the floor as I gently tap the heel down of my opposite foot and then come back up again. And you want to be doing about 6 to 8 of these on each side. So this next exercise for our TVA muscle is called the Swiss ball turn. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be coming onto a plank position with my hands on the Swiss ball, and I'm going to be then pushing the ball away from me a couple of inches and then drawing the ball in towards me a couple of inches. And you don't need to move the ball very far forward or very far back for these to be really pretty effective. So this actually trains what's called lumbar pelvic control really effectively. And what I mean by that is that when you're when you're in the plank position with this instability here, with the hands on the ball, the temptation will be to arch your back to try and get some stability. But that completely disengages our core and it feels horrible on our lower back. So what you want to be thinking about here is to actually be doing what's called a posterior pelvic tilt, which is the opposite action of the anterior pelvic tilt with sticking the butt out. You want to be drawing your hip bones forward in towards the ball. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this one. So here, bringing my hands on the ball, coming into a plank position, really drawing my pelvis forward, and I'm just gently pushing the ball away and then drawing it towards me again. So that's one turn. We're going to be doing 5 of these all together. So this next exercise that we're going to be doing isn't really a core strengthener per se, but it's a really great way to stretch out some of these areas that may have gotten a bit tight as we've been strengthening our core. So this first one here I want to show you is a hip flexor lengthener, and basically we're going to be coming with one foot in front of us, the knee is in a 90-degree angle. And we're going to go ahead and inhale, roll the shoulders away from the ears. Exhaling, I'm going to squeeze the glute of that back leg, and then I'm also going to draw the heel of that front foot in towards the sit bone of that same side. So I'm actually creating a little bit of an isometric action here between this glute and between that front foot, and squeezing the pelvis forward in what's called a posterior pelvic tilt. So by doing this, you should actually feel a really nice lengthening here in the front of that back hip flexor. So being here for about 10 seconds, long, slow, deep breathing. And then switching sides. So once you've actually done that on both sides, I like to go in a little bit deeper by bringing the back knee way back and coming into lizard pose. So lizard pose is probably something you've seen if you've been to a yoga class. You're bringing that, as I've mentioned, that back knee way back, and you coming into the inside with the hands of that front leg, the front foot. Here you're going to take an inhalation, exhaling, you're going to be lifting the chest and letting those hips sink. So you can actually really feel the front of that back hip flexor lengthening. If you're comfortable here, you can go ahead and come onto your elbows like this, and breathing long, slow and deep. You can also just have your belly be nice and soft here as well, and breathing here for about another 10 to 15 seconds. Now, just a little caveat here with both of these. If you are a little bit more on the hypermobile side, so you already do perhaps you practice a lot of yoga already and you're already pretty mobile, and anything like that tends to go into the lumbar spine, any kind of action like the lizard pose that have just done just now, then you want to stick with that first hip flexor stretch that I showed you where you're more upright with the spine. If you have a decent amount of mobility but you still want to release a little bit more and you're feeling like that hip flexor is lengthening and you're not tightening, the hips are not tightening as a protective thing that sometimes happens when people actually overstretch the front of their hip, and the hips actually tighten to protect that action, to protect against that, then you can go into lizard pose, okay, and really enjoy that. I actually enjoy both variations myself. So if you practice these core exercises about 3 to 5 times a week, you should notice a definite improvement in your overall core strength, and also in other things that you do. If you love to do yoga, you should notice a difference in yoga practice. If you run, hike, or play sports, you should notice a difference there as well. So if you enjoyed this video, you got some value from it, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate your support. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.